Joining me on the program now, John Cowan. John, kia ora. Nice to see you.
Kia ora, Andrew. Your introduction pretty much summarises all I was going to say,
Okay,
so
we're done.
perhaps go to an ad break and I'll
How's
take
daylight
it from you.
savings
No,
working
no,
for you now? I mean, it is
no,
an
and it's
interesting
eight.
one, isn't it, though? Because there's lots of shiny things on the internet that garner our attention and also our rage. There's lots of
Yes,
things
my
that you can be.
attention has been garnered, and no, there's certainly lots and lots of opinions flying around,
Yeah.
and a heatedness in the air that I think is unusual. People getting very, very upset about things, and but rightly. And I want to talk this morning about where do we put our energy?
Mm-hmm.
Because in general, I think people of my age, and if you could see me, you don't need to cut me in half and count my rings to work out how old I am. I mean, I'm rapidly approaching redundancy and old age, but in general, I think my age group tends to be a little milder in their views. Not always.
Okay.
You do meet the grumpy old man. You do meet the
There is the
person
archetype,
that's
yeah.
litigious and short-tempered. But I think personally, I'm just a little gladder that my passions don't rage as furiously. I'm a little bit more patient of people cutting me off in the motorway, or I can handle kids not behaving themselves quite as well as I'd like. I think better, and I think this is in general. You do, as you get older, you do become a bit mellower, a bit milder, and I think in general that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
One of the things I think we're learning as we get older is that anger doesn't work. I wish I'd known that earlier in my parenting, especially. Anger doesn't, Anger seldom achieves the things that you hope it will.
Mm-hmm.
When I yelled at my kids, very seldom do they ever come back to me and say, "Thank you, Dad, for that telling off. That was just what we needed to straighten our act up and do the right thing."
Yeah.
No, it just stunk up the atmosphere and made things worse. There are things you need to be angry about, and I'd like to come to them. But in general, in your personal relationships and your business dealings and things, anger seldom achieves what you hope it to achieve. You might have a little temporary rush of feeling like, oh, that was good. I got that off my chest. I certainly told them a thing or two. It doesn't usually generate what you want, especially in the long term.
Yeah.
And another thing is getting riled up. It seldom changes people's minds. It seldom budges their viewpoint that you might be disagreeing with. You might have political views or worlds, things going on in the world, and you're passionate about it. And I bet if you engage passionately with someone in a conversation, they might nod and walk away from you, but I doubt if their opinions have changed much.
Yeah.
There are better ways to change opinions. So again, is there a better thing to do than get emotional and riled up about something? Maybe there is. Sometimes it does work, but often I think there's possibly better ways of doing this. And another thing that I find helps me calm down and cool down is sometimes to put a disability lens on a situation, meaning that maybe this person has got a problem.
Yep.
Maybe they've got some emotional or psychiatric problem. Maybe they just don't quite have the horsepower between their ears to deal with a situation in the way that you'd like. And, just to sometimes just think, yeah, there's probably a story behind this that I don't know. There might be more going on that I'm not aware of. And me getting riled up and angry isn't going to be the best or most gracious thing I can do here.
Yeah.
So generally, I don't regret holding my peace. Generally, when I can walk away from a fight or a disagreement, I don't feel bad about that. I usually think, yeah, that was the right thing to do. But sometimes I would do that because I'm lazy.
Yeah, I was going to say there's not much of a leap between a shrug and apathy, really.
That's right. Because there are things to get passionate about. There are things where it requires intervention and justice and social action and for us to do the right thing. So I have to look at myself and say, am I being lazy? Am I being uncaring? Am I being apathetic? Am I being a coward in not rising to a fight when a fight is needed? The temptation for me is to call something an SEP, An SEP is a handy little phrase, and it stands for someone else's problem.
Okay.
Ah, yes, this is an SEP. Someone else's problem. I'm going to walk away and let someone else fix it.
Yeah.
And that's a huge temptation for a lazy person like myself. But what I'm trying to coach myself in is, hey, there are situations where I can't sit back. And that especially applies if it comes to defending other people.
Yeah.
When it comes to defending my own rights and my own, protecting my own toes from being trod on, maybe I can just shrug. But if it's someone else who's being pushed around, someone else who's having their rights trampled on, then it's up to all of us, I think, to defend other people, especially the poor, especially the young, especially if they're people that are of a group that are being not always well represented, perhaps people from a different country or different nation.
Yep.
It shouldn't matter about geographical distance. If people are overseas and they're getting a hard time, we should be concerned about them and also think about ways in which we could be upholding their rights. Distance doesn't really matter as regards our activation, I think. The planet, and I mean, who's going to speak for the environment, for things going on in the world, if people don't? And people, I'm a people, and so is this something we should be speaking out about and getting active in? Politics. If good people like you and me don't get involved in politics, who is going to get in politics? Probably just people that are passionate and may not necessarily be the best, the brightest, or the right person to do it. And so I admire people generally that go into politics because they're usually selfless. Maybe more of us should be taking an interest in that. So that's concern for other people. But there are times when I think we need to not do some shrugging and actually be more proactive when it comes to our own boundaries and our own space. And I'm not talking about just defending our ego or our reputation or things like this. I'm talking about when conceding, giving in, backing off is going to create a bad relationship in the long run.
Yep.
I see too many marriages where one partner is conceding too often. Yes, dear, giving in, just doing things against their better judgment, against their will. And it's sort of like a false concession. And it leads to resentment. It leads to ultimately a toxic relationship. The other thing is sometimes your concession, your giving in, will iron a crease into someone else's personality. Yeah. And that's why I'm very keen on mums in particular standing up to their sons. Wow. To draw themselves up onto in their dignity on a sort of an emotional pedestal and say to yourself things like, nobody who gave me stretch marks is going to talk to me like that. And you're doing that not just because you're being bossy or arrogant. You're doing it for the sake of every other woman that your son is going to deal with. Yeah. If you allow them to boss you around, to be pushy and rude, then I think that could be ironing a crease into their personality. And you want something better from your boys than that. Yeah. Applies to your girls too, of course, but that's the illustration that springs to mind. So yes, in general, shrugging is not a bad thing to do usually, but there are things we need to get animated about.
I'm going away to prayerfully contemplate whether or not I am growing more mature and calm or whether I'm just lazy, John. But thank you for your...
I'll pick a fight with you if you're not.
but thank you for your wisdom and your encouragement today. Certainly some food for thought. Thanks for joining us on the program today.
Cheers. Thank you, Andrew.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.